Welcome everyone to the Gap Mastermind. I am your co-host today, Rebecca Soto, and we have an amazing guest with us today. And before we introduce her, I do want to remind you these calls are recorded each week and they are shared on YouTube and also in our Global Alliance University. And what I love about these calls, we're covering topics that have everything to do with growth, action, and productivity, everything to help you get your week started right and to sharpen your skills. And so today we have an amazing class. We're going to talk about working with VA buyers and even sellers. And so we have our guest who is Cory Talaska. She's been an amazing friend of mine for several years, and she's been in the industry, I think it's 12 years. She's a 5 times icon agent, and that's a big deal. And congratulations to you, Cory, on earning icon 5 times in a row. And she's also part of a book. She's a co-author of the book, and let me see if I can remember the name of that book. But it is, oh shoot, where is it? I had it in front of me just a moment ago.
It's The Secrets of Top Luxury Agents.
That is it. That is it. Yes, thank you for reminding me of the name of the book. But
Absolutely.
anyway, I'm excited that you're here with us. Finally got you on our Gap Mastermind call. So Cory, I'm just going to go ahead and let you take the floor.
Awesome. Well, thank you, first of all, for having me. I really appreciate it. It means everything. And you and your husband have been such a blessing since I met you guys. So, you guys have always been a great support system and always a phone call away, which I love. I love. So I'm happy that you guys invited me to be here when you guys were just in town, not that long ago.
We love Wisconsin, so every chance we get, we're out there. But that's one fun fact that I forgot to mention. She is out of Wisconsin, but you also do some work in Florida. So I love that you can virtually work from anywhere in the world.
Yes, absolutely. I love it. I mean, that's one of the biggest things about this brokerage is that we have that capability. It's like if I want to grab my license in another state or another country, I have that option, which is just amazing. You don't get that opportunity everywhere. So I think that we're truly blessed with where we're at. So yeah, I know everybody in this market, at least here in Wisconsin, is such a seller's market still, and it can really be really difficult for these buyers, especially the veterans or, the people that aren't paying cash or they're not conventional financing. So it's definitely a challenge for these poor veterans to even get to use, something that they've worked so hard to earn. This isn't like, so it's not just handed to veterans or anybody that's active duty or anything. You actually have to have served, like a continuous 90-day stretch as active duty. If you were a reservist like myself, I was actually never activated. So my benefits are different from somebody that did active duty. So there's all different levels of what you kind of get access to versus don't, which is kind of crazy because you can't really control what's happening in the world when you are enlisted, but this was back in 1997. I joined right out of high school. But I absolutely love to work with veterans. And I usually, when I do work with veterans as buyers or sellers, but especially buyers, I make sure also though that the lender I'm working with, as everybody knows, it is crucial to have all the pieces of the puzzle fit perfectly in each transaction for it to work out how you want it to, especially in these types of situations. So, I always try to pair my veterans with an actual lender that's a veteran also, because they know exactly how we're doing things. They really kind of go above and beyond. I'm not saying the other ones don't, but it is different, which anyone that's done VA loans will absolutely know what I'm talking about. If they come to you with a certain lender, you're like, let's talk about this. So Just a recent experience that I have, which I absolutely loved, was I had a veteran and his wife and their two kids, and he's a disabled veteran. So you actually get a little bit more benefits for that one. So when you are purchasing with a VA loan, there's a VA funding fee, which is a percentage of the sale, basically, that usually they have to come out of pocket. It's kind of like their version of closing costs. But if it's a disabled vet, that's waived. So that's huge to know, because a lot of people, sometimes people don't know that. And then a lot of times though, the veteran's actually walking away from the closing with a check. So they're like also getting paid, which is awesome, to considering how much some of these people have to bring to the table when they're purchasing a home. So I actually didn't realize how many homes we saw, but Mrs. Buyer told me we viewed 43 homes and we wrote 8 offers that got rejected specifically because we were a VA loan. And it was brutal, like absolutely brutal. And she asked me, she said, Cory, all these people always say, when you find the one, she's like, and I haven't really felt that. And I said, well, I can tell you're kind of settling, because when we write the offer, it's like, well, I'm okay if I lose it. And then the day we walked into the house that we ended up getting, and I actually had a conversation with them at the prior home. And I said, you guys, what it's going to come down to, unfortunately, is we're really going to need a seller that's a veteran. That's going to be our sweet spot, because unfortunately, and it does fall on the listing agent too, because sometimes even though the house is totally fine for a VA loan, when it comes to appraisal, they'll steer their clients away from it, which is kind of crappy, because they really worked hard and they earned this loan and this opportunity to buy a home with it. So I had that conversation at the prior house. And then when we walked into the house that we ended up closing on just a couple months ago, and as we were walking through, we saw, things that showed us this is a veteran's home. Like we knew. And as we walked out, we saw the Vietnam veteran hat hanging by the door. And my dad is actually a Vietnam vet. He did 3 tours in Vietnam, which is kind of what inspired me to do that also. Like, honestly, when I got out of high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was like, I got to do something, but what am I going to do? So I enlisted, and I loved the training and I loved everything about it. If I could change anything, I would have went active duty instead of reserves, but it is what it is. And this is what brought me to where I am today. So we did end up getting that home accepted, and it was basically because the sellers were both veterans, and Mr. was still active with the Navy, and they wanted to go to a veteran and his family, and we got really lucky. We didn't even have to bump our escalation clause into effect or anything. I was literally blown away when the agent called me and said, Cory, they're accepting your offer. We're accepting it early. We're not even gonna give, because nowadays people are like, oh, we've got 4 days that we're gonna stack up these offers, and you just got to sit and sweat it out, which is brutal. So it was just such a blessing for them that it happened that way, and everybody just, the whole thing felt amazing. Literally the entire process was such a godsend for them, and they are so happy in their home. And it's just, it really makes you love what you do even a little bit more. It's like, it's such an honor to be a part of every situation with every client. But when you really have to go to bat, for the government loans, it's tough. It is tough. And I have definitely scraped and painted, and I was just dropping off some detectors at a house yesterday for an FHA loan that I have as the seller's agent, making sure everything is okay. And a lot of people don't really realize how much we really do. Because I've had a client say, oh, well, your job is really easy. And I will never forget when she said that to me. And I was like, maybe I should stop making it look so easy. Because people don't really realize how much really goes on, in the back, because they just think, oh, you're just showing a house and you're just writing an offer and then you get paid. And it's like, there's a lot more to it than that. So I feel like it's an honor every time I get to help any veteran, and especially as a listing agent, when I see VA loans come through and conventional loans and FHA loans, I'm not gonna lie, I definitely go to bat for those other offers that I know are getting beat out over and over and over again just because of the type of financing that they qualify for. It's just, and it's kind of up to us as the listing agents to dictate the market. We've kind of created, not so much myself, but I'm saying a lot of the listing agents have created where we're at right now by allowing certain things like appraisal gap coverages, or, you know, just stuff that we never really imagined we would be doing. Like, I don't like allowing my buyers to do appraisal gap coverages, because that's just basically me saying, I'm cool with you paying more than what this home is worth. And I don't like that, and I feel like a lot of the agents now really are like, well, this is a great offer, but where's your appraisal gap coverage? And I'm just like, we're not doing it. And in the last 4 years, I've sold over 40 homes every year as a single agent, and I've done two appraisal gap coverages in those 4 years. So you can get away with not doing it, because everybody knows that this is definitely a relationship-based industry. And sometimes these other agents are like, well, we have better offers, but Cory, I know how you work. You get things done, you communicate, you're honest, you care about your clients. You're not just walking around with, commission breath, like, hurry up, let's close. I really don't care about my clients. I just want to get paid, because that's not what it's all about. But I guess I don't know like what you guys really want me to all focus on, but it's basically when you decide to, as a veteran or an active duty, service member, to get the process started, basically you have to get your certificate of eligibility, which you get from your local VA. It's pretty simple if you've done your 90 days of active duty. There's other ways too, if you haven't done 90 days, there's other, circumstances that you have to meet or requirements. But it all basically really comes down to serving those 90 days as active, and they have to be continuous, no breaks, not like you did a certain amount and then you came back and did 60 days and 30 or whatever it was. So it's amazing, to see when these people come to me and they're like, we know it's going to be hard. And I was like, what isn't hard? What is not hard in this life that we live? It's definitely has everyday challenges that we all face. Everybody goes through things. I said, but guess what? We're going to get there. And whenever we kept losing out on those homes with my prior clients, I said, you know what? This just means something better is coming along. Like, this just wasn't the one. We tried, yes, but something better is coming. And then when that happens, it's such an amazing and gratifying feeling. Like, just like, see, this is why we lost out on all those homes that we were like, I'm not really sure. Like, I like it, but we're not going to I always kind of say, how do you feel about losing this home? Like, how bad do you really want it? And that kind of dictates when they're like, well, and I'm like, okay, you're settling. And settling is not an option in my world. We'll see 43 homes if we have to, because if they buy a home and then they close and they're not happy or they can't afford it, I failed. I didn't do my job, correctly. If now they can't live the lifestyle that they wanted to live. Right. So I think that's so important. But basically, you have to just reach out to your local VSO and talk with them, and you have to have your paperwork or your discharge paperwork. And then it's basically all the same requirements when it comes to your, your credit, your income, and all those things, but it's actually pretty simple. The hardest part is getting that accepted offer, and most homes, you don't want your clients to buy a home that is, not going to qualify for a VA appraisal. You want it to have good bones. And in Wisconsin, we have basements, so foundations, if a foundation is bad, that can cost you over $20,000 to fix. So that's one of the things that I really actually like with these types of loans, because it has to have a solid foundation, which I feel like in life, a solid foundation is important, and especially in a home. So it's just like you never want your clients, unless they're investors that like to buy the challenging homes, then cool. But like, you don't want your clients to buy a home that all of a sudden they're going to have like a roof leak or something caving in or whatever the situation is. So as we all know, as buyer's agents, it's really important to make sure that they're buying a good home, you know, not just a lemon. Because I've had that happen where a flipper completely hid things. And then the day after we closed, the central air froze up, the water heater stopped. We learned that the venting was all incorrect. It wasn't even a tap. Like it was wild, some of the things that these people do. So it's just so important to protect your clients, you know, as we all know. But I feel like with how this market has gotten, people kind of put that on the back burner and they just really do any and everything to get that offer accepted. And that's not the best way to work as, especially as buyer's agents. You know, I know it's tough, but you also have to, you know, stick to your ground on things.
Hey, Cory. Veronica here. I
Hi.
interrupt. Just wanted to kind of thank you, first of all, for doing this and talking a little bit more about VAs with everything happening with NAR. Obviously, we know some changes. They just rolled out an approval that commissions can be paid. So let's dive a little bit more deeper into the tactical stuff. I really want to kind of just dive into a couple things. How to have these winning conversations, how to identify VA sellers, the benefits, perhaps for those of you who are not aware of, assumable loans, as well as your entitlement. Just because you own a VA property doesn't mean your entitlement is fully used. And there's additional entitlement should you, let's say you're relocating somewhere else and, you know, for whatever reason it might be. Can we talk a little bit about those details if you are familiar with them? Because I really want to help people identify how to find more VA pro sellers. And usually, like I said, it's a pro seller. Usually a VA pro seller is a VA owner, seller, right? So then you also have assumable loan, which just because someone owns a home doesn't mean they necessarily want to sell that home right away, or they're going to buy something where else they're going. So they may be willing to do an assumable loan. Just a lot of details, right? So let's see how they can really expand their mind, not just on how to represent a buyer, but how to leverage their knowledge in educating buyers, sellers, maybe a VA seminar. Can we dive a little bit more into that?
Absolutely. So I haven't actually gotten the opportunity to do one of those for my buyers or have a seller that does it, but I am familiar with the process and it's actually pretty simple, you know, for them to just kind of to assume that seller's VA loan, you know, it basically transfers over to them, you know, which is such an amazing opportunity because guess what? That interest rate that they have too also transfers over. So if they're locked in at like a 2 or 3, whatever percent, when we got down to that crazy low rate, they also get to, you know, have that as well, which it makes a huge difference in the market, as we know. So that's kind of also why it's important to have all those puzzle pieces that are right, you know, to have that lender that knows how to, you know, pivot around all of these things and make sure everything is done correctly. And that's on both sides because now you're dealing with the whoever has the seller's mortgage too, you know, so everybody's got to be on the same page, you know, and if you don't know something, never be afraid to ask, you know, just because like I haven't actually done one. So I'm I feel like I know like that much about it because I haven't done it. I feel like until I actually go through the process, I don't feel 100% like confident in it. And I'm a very honest person. So I'm just telling you guys exactly how it is with that. I'm not somebody, I'm not a fake it till you make it person. Not in this industry. That'll get you sued really quick. So I think that that is such an amazing thing when you have those veteran sellers that say, hey, you know, I talked to my lender and this loan that I have is assumable. So we can pass that on. And you better believe as a listing agent, I'm putting that in my private remarks and I'm making sure people know that because of how hard it is for these vets to get these accepted offers. It's brutal. So, you know, it's just such a cool thing that they came up with. And then with NAR, so what they're doing is they're allowing a temporary local variance. So the way that this is working is they are allowing, it's not, they'll cover like a portion of it. But that's only if the seller's agent is not allowing them to disclose anything that has to do with the commissions. There's like certain rules, of course, always, that have to be on there for them to be able to get this covered. And they have to still, it can't come out of their pocket if they're having to do a VA funding fee, if they're not disabled. There's a lot of requirements that have to be met for this. It's going to be tricky, but anyone that knows, just how to communicate. And as we all know, it's always constant educating. We're always learning in this business, and we always have to grow to be the best that we can be, and we're all going to learn together, and we're going to get through it. The strong are going to survive. Absolutely. But it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. So this local variance, which I actually am just starting to learn about, is just it goes into effect August 10th. And that's when things are going to start to change a little bit, but it'll be pretty interesting to see how this all works out. And I kind of have a feeling that it's going to get a little bit better for our vets in this, because we could have a good stand here with some of the situations versus some of the other buyers. I'm really hopeful on that, because it's been tough for them. I actually have a seller right now who they have a condo, but this is the same buyers. I'm selling their condo, and it was already, I asked them, I said, hey, do you guys have a VA loan currently that we can do an assumable to transfer over? But this was a condo they bought years ago, and it's already paid off. So I was hoping to have that opportunity, to get my hands a little bit dirty and figure that out and work through all the kinks of it. But I think one thing that will really help you if you're interested in learning more is to get your military relocation, certification, get your MRP. You learn so much in that class. I learned so much that I had no idea, even as how my father was in Vietnam, so many things that I had access to, but I had no idea. And that time is long gone, when it comes to my college funds and things, that a lot of it could have been covered. And I had no clue, because he also had no clue, because unfortunately, a lot of these older vets, they don't know what they have access to. It's really difficult. I actually found myself in that course in tears, because I learned that my father, who he was a door gunner and a tunnel rat. Okay. The life expectancy for those two jobs is 2 weeks. Okay. He did 18 months. Okay. So he had a very, very difficult job. It was like, go crawl in that tunnel. I hope you come out alive. It's
Wow.
just wild. Right. So and he was exposed to, Agent Orange and all kinds of situations where I learned that he was only at 10% disability. 10%. Blew my mind, you guys. I couldn't believe it. So I've been actually battling with the VA now since last February. I've got him up to 70%. So we're getting closer. But it's a challenge. So if you guys have a family member or anybody, I highly recommend reach out to your local VSO. Go to bat for them, because they absolutely have it out there. They will get back pay from the second you start that claim. It's not easy. It is, I feel like we're at war again here, just to get him the benefits he truly deserves. He's 74 years old, and, was forced to retire early because he was, first cavalry. So he was airborne. So jumping out of all of these, Blackhawks and everything, his feet were compromised. Everything was weak. Right. So he actually ended up having to retire from his job way earlier than he ever should have from a work accident, so it was just no, you're messing with the wrong girl here. I'm going to make sure my dad gets these benefits. So there's just so much more to it. So I highly recommend taking that MRP class. It is so educational, whether it comes to your profession or even your personal life, and who that are veterans. I can't even tell you how many people I come across, and they're like, no, I'm not actually getting anything. And I'm just like, wait, I'm sorry. What?
What does VSO mean? What does VSO
So
mean for
that's
those?
your local veteran service officer. So they don't necessarily work for the VA. It's a separate entity that helps you, because honestly, the VA, unfortunately, they don't go to bat as hard as they should. So there's separate people that aren't working for the actual VAs. So this is like just a representative that will help you do your claims. Like we sat there and we went through all these claims, everything that he was exposed to, like with hearing loss or you name it, right? Like that they don't even really think about until somebody's starting to ask them these hard questions. And then you're like, okay, that's a long list of things that you've been exposed to and that you live with every day. And to hear my dad going through all these things with this gentleman, I couldn't believe it. Like I had never really heard him talking about these things because let's be real, a lot of these veterans from these really hard wars, they don't talk about it, like they really don't. So sometimes it's not so easy because he was like, it's fine. I'm fine with getting $150 a month. And I was like, well, I'm not. I'm not okay with it, because you did your time. You did a really, really hard war you were in that was insane. I'm not sneezing at any of the other ones, but I think we all know Vietnam was dirty. It was a messy one, and when they came home, they were not treated well, so it's important. Just there's so many resources out there, and I would be very happy to share. I'm obviously in Wisconsin, so a lot of mine are here, but it's very easy to just search your local VSO for wherever you're at. And with EXP, we also have the EXP Military Network, which I
Okay.
am a part of also. And there's a lot of really good resources there too, that we're always all a phone call away. Every state has a state squad leader that we are always here to help. So I don't ever want anyone to think like, I just don't know where to turn. Reach out to me and I will connect you with your state person, and we will make sure that, everything is set up for you so that you know exactly who to talk to about these things.
So I heard, find out who your local VSO is.
Mhm.
It looks like there's tons of resources there.
Yeah.
Definitely recommend getting your military certification. That's
Mhm.
another actionable item that you guys can do. The other thing I heard was also get connected with the EXP Military Network guys if you want to dive a little deeper and obviously learn the resources that you have. My mind is already going,
Mhm.
anyone who's really passionate about veterans, right? Guys,
Yeah.
do veteran workshops, get to know your local VA hospital.
Mhm.
There's so many things that you can do. And then of course, get with your lender to talk about assumable loans,
Yeah.
entitlement. Someone asked also, what do you need for someone to, take advantage of their veteran VA benefits? Of course, it's called the DD 214. They'll need their DD 214. If they don't have access to that, they can request it. So it's really, really important. I know a little bit about VA because I own a home that's financed by VA. My father was the veteran as well. So I wouldn't say I'm the most versed, but I've taken advantage of VA multiple times. We love
Yeah.
our VA properties. And again, learning what the entitlement allotted amounts are based on the county that the home is being purchased in, the state. So just if you're in more higher net worth locations, then of course it'll be a higher net worth. It'll be a higher amount. But become familiar with these things. Be the advocate, be the expert, interview your lender, and become just a student of understanding what are those benefits and what are some of the challenges that veterans are facing. As a listing agent, I would highly, highly, highly be pro veterans and solicit potential veterans. And there's multiple ways that you could sell your home and get top dollar for your home as a vet. And of course, um, while staying within the rules, right, of what's possible, you've got the assumable loan where they can assume the portion and then the equity could be a second. Like there's so many things that you can do, guys, but you got to think outside the box. You got to be that. So I grew my business also with doing a lot of buyer seminars for first-time home buyers. No different than you can also do so with veteran home buyers. In our market where I live, we have a huge, beautiful VA hospital. My father goes there, he gets his appointments there. My husband goes there. I tell you, it is a community. So I highly encourage you guys to get involved. There's also groups that you can also support. I believe it's called is it Legions? And it's a really
Yeah.
big like
The
veterans.
VFWs.
Yes. So there are communities that, whether it's like the Moose Club or the VA Club or things like that, guys, that you could get involved in. And again, they don't have as many advocates as you would think. There are so many ways that you can advocate, not just one group or another. Get deep with your veterans community. It's a loyal community as well. So just put it
Yeah.
out there.
And and just kind of piggybacking on that, another thing that people seem to forget, which is really close to my heart, is there's a lot of homeless veterans and they need help. I know here in Milwaukee, there's what's called the Milwaukee Homeless Veterans Initiative. And whenever I have like a seller's home that I'm selling and it's full of things that they don't know what to do with, you better believe I'm connecting them with that list of items that this organization is always looking for. And it's basically, they are looking for everything to rehome these homeless veterans, and they need everything down to from silverware to sheets or even furniture, you guys, and they will come and pick it up. Like, you really don't have to do that much. It's not even that hard, but like that's one thing that really gets overlooked. And the VA hospital is amazing too. My dad had an emergency surgery last fall was not a good time. He spent 12 days there. And let me tell you, everybody there was so amazing. Like the care that they give and how they, make sure that they're treated. I love it, because before I did real estate, I worked in the healthcare field. I worked in surgery at a children's hospital here. So that is like dear to my heart, so it was just like, I think it's really important to look at your local organizations, even if you're donating your time, if there's at the homeless shelters or whatever it is, there's a lot of vets out there that need help, and be an advocate, do what you can. If you're donating things, don't just go drop it off at Goodwill where they're going to make money off of it. Go and take it to these local organizations where they're literally putting these homeless people into homes and they need these things. Like, I cannot even tell you, like, you can call and they'll say, yep, this is what we're really looking for right now. This is what we're short on, winter's coming up or whatever it is. Myself and the other squad leader, Tiffany, we did do a drive. It's kind of hard to, you can try and try, but we literally tell people, you know what, you don't even have to drop your stuff off. We will literally come pick it up and take it there for you. We try to make it as simple as we can. And then we got to tour this facility. And it was also a place where, a lot of these veterans were able to work. They give them jobs and they're there and they're driving this truck and going, picking things up. And they truly love what they're doing to help other veterans. It's really amazing to have those opportunities. So I highly, highly suggest try to get more involved with your community, because there's so much out there that you can do that you probably have no idea. And it means so much. The little bit goes so far.
Yeah, Cory, I think those are some really great ideas, and kind of prompted me to kind of like go to my past clients and start like a VA drive, right? Like a lot of times too, like spring cleaning, fall cleaning, right? Or even people that are current clients that want to like remove stuff from their house. Instead of taking it to Goodwill, what happens if you were to, add an extra layer of service and just say, hey, we do a drive every so often to help vets, right? And so then you get your past clients to commit to that. And then that's also opening conversations for more business. So that's awesome. And Cory, I didn't get a chance to introduce myself. I'm Taz Weatherly. I'm a real estate agent here in Idaho. I'm actually the relocation specialist for the VA. So very familiar with the VA, and thank you so much for being an advocate for all of our veterans. One of the questions that I have, and then also for everyone else that's listening, if you guys have questions, ask them in the chat. But one of the questions that I had was, what's the biggest mistake you see most agents who don't specialize in VA make?
I would say they're not, like, maybe when they're looking at homes, they're not really looking to see that it's meeting those VA requirements when it comes to the appraisal. Like if I know, I mean, I think I do this with every client, whether they're VA or not, but I'm always
Mhm.
looking like, especially like I was literally, in Kenosha yesterday, looking at one of my listings that I knew for FHA though, but it's pretty much the same requirements. I knew
Mhm.
this was not going to be an easy task for my seller at all. We've got some work to do, so like you need to be looking at the roof. You need to be looking at the paint. Is it peeling? Is it something that's going to be super easy? Are we going to have to contract something out? Something as simple as the railings, it's 3 steps and above. You have to have railings. They have to be sturdy. I have definitely, took my drill and made sure that that railing was sturdy yesterday because it wasn't. And you have to have the CO2 and smoke detectors on every level. It's little things that the home just has to be solid, which as you want it to be anyways for your buyers. But I think that's the biggest mistake I see is people are like, oh, it'll be fine. And then they don't address it before the appraisal. And now you have this laundry list from the appraiser. All this has to be done. And then your client has to now pay us to go back and check after it's done. So I think that's the biggest mistake that I see because I like to try and get that stuff corrected before the appraiser goes through for the first time so that it's never an issue,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So then to that, kind of like tailing into my next question, when working with buyers, right? So like you're representing a buyer, you're under contract and like you're now negotiating the repairs. When you have a list of items that are like, hey, this needs to be done, this needs to be done, whatever that is, how do you position repairs for VA clients, particularly in this market? Because I don't know about your market, but what I'm seeing is this like sellers are still a little bit like boots in the ground, like I'm digging in, this is the value of my house, I'm not making any concessions. Like, how do you position repair requests for VA clients?
So honestly, it comes down to having the conversation, with the seller's agent, talk, communicate. I feel like a lot of these agents nowadays will do everything they can to not pick up a phone and have a conversation, which drives me freaking nuts. I'm not going to lie. Like this is a relationship based business. So kind of like going back to the deal with my veterans. What I loved about their agent was he was not a vet himself, but you could tell the sellers from the second that they listed their home, they were already on board. So it's kind of going to depend on the sellers, but obviously this was a special case because the sellers were veterans. They had it right there in the private remarks. Seller will be having the front deck painted and repainted before anything needs to be done, so they already were going to pay for that. But I also said to them, we will cover half of the cost of the paint, or we will cover whatever needs to be done up to this amount as the buyers. So we have done that. I have seen that with FHA loans also, where they'll say anything that is flagged on the appraisal that we will cover up to a certain amount, and obviously that number could be high if, especially in Wisconsin with having foundations, or if a roof needs to be replaced. This isn't just like painting and, scraping and painting a little bit around like a window or something. That could be a high dollar amount, so you really kind of also have to put a cap on that. But I think it really just comes down to having those conversations. It really is what it is. And honestly,
Yeah.
sometimes some of the agents are going to right away say, no, we're not doing it. So it's going to be a case by case scenario, but it can't hurt to have the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. But okay, so this is in my opinion, but maybe yours is different. So I am not a vet, right? I personally am scared to like tap into that market in the sense that I find that I'm unqualified. Like I'm not a vet. Like I don't understand the things that they are. I'm here to listen, but I don't really know. For someone in a position similar to mine that may not have served, but wants to niche in the VA space, what type of tips or how would you encourage them into getting involved in that space, knowing that they haven't actually served the country before?
Start with getting your MRP. Start there. Because that course, it's a 1-day course. I think it was like for 4 or 5 hours. You will learn, you will walk out of there feeling like so much more. Even being a vet, I learned so much. That was like such, like I like even coming down to, the disability for the vets, but like even learning things about the homes and the benefits that are available to the spouses or the surviving spouses or the surviving children, or, you know, kind of like Veronica said, like, you know, when you have a father or somebody that served, you know, or your mother, whoever it was, like you are entitled also to benefits. There's so much more to it. Take that course because you will learn so much. It doesn't matter if you've served or not served. You can be just as much of an expert. Like, honestly, I was reserves. I was the weekend warrior, you know, like I didn't really get to do as much as I really wish I could have in my career. I feel like I'm like the baseline of it, you know, like you and I are pretty equal here because from reservist and not even doing much besides weekends. And then besides obviously my basic training and my AIT training, which is your advanced individual training, that's really it, you know, so it's just up to you to educate yourself. That's it. And set up meetings with lenders that specialize in it. I'm not to say don't call Veterans United, you know, like literally go to like your local ones and find out who is, you know, like a strong advocate, you know, like who's an actual veteran. That's why I love, like when I have veteran buyers, I have a special little list of my lenders that are veterans and they really know this inside and out. You know, they are the experts. So just
Gotcha.
learn to be the expert. You know, we're always all learning. So you're never going to know everything, but do your best. That's it.
Yeah. So then when working with veteran clients, obviously you have a preferred former vet lender, but what other things do you look for in your lenders when servicing your vets?
Honestly, I feel like, and this is just across the board, just that they're communicating everything from day one. Like off the bat from day one, this is what's going to happen. This is the process. And it's up to all of us to make sure that that's happening regardless, you know, because a lot of these people think, oh, cool, you know, I'm going to buy a house. It's going to be easy. I'm going to go buy my furniture, which you're like, you just bought furniture for a house. Now you're not going to be able to buy, you know? So it's like, I think it just really comes down to just making sure that everybody's communicating and educating their clients. Because I've had people that literally have gone out and gotten a payday loan to pay their earnest money. That didn't work out so well. Then they had to get a cosigner. So it's literally just having those conversations from day one and also saying, don't ever be afraid to ask me a question. Anything, any little question that crosses your mind, ask me. Because when they feel like they can't ask a question, that's when things hit the fan, you know? So I think it's just really comes down to the communication from the get-go and laying that all out there in black and white.
Gotcha. So then speaking of communication, like getting it out in front in the get-go with the new commission change that's happening, for lack of better terms, how do you think people should communicate with vets now based off of the changes of NAR when it comes to commission and compensation?
Well, I feel like at least, and I don't know how everyone's feeling about this, but I do a lot of listings and I feel like it's going to hurt our sellers if they say, I'm not paying a buyer's agent, you know, but it's going to happen. We all know it's going to happen. So I think it's kind of just coming down to that conversation, like just so that you're aware, some sellers may still be offering to pay me. Some may not. So, you know, when you're going through your buyer agency, you have to be very detail oriented. You have to go through every line. I know a lot of agents that try not to even go over contracts, which blows my mind, right? But it happens every day. And I think it's so important just to make sure that they are aware you might have to come out of pocket, you know, and pay me at the end. And as we know, our commissions have always been negotiable. Now it's just going to be a little bit more on the front end of things where it has to be discussed much more openly than just us all assuming, oh, they're going to pay us. That's what's going to happen, because it might not be, you know, we just don't know how many sellers are going to do this and or not. It's going to be, you know, case by case, like, what are we going to do? So I think it's just going to be that another initial conversation from the beginning. This might be something that might have to happen. So this is about what it might cost. This is the percentage that it would be of the, you know, accepted offer price, so that they're aware. And it's not like they're at, you know, a day before closing and they see, oh, I have to bring an extra $7,000 to pay you. I didn't know that. You don't, that's never a good surprise, you know? So I think it's literally just we're going to have harder conversations than we're used to. And it just all comes down to negotiating and talking to our people, which we should be doing anyways. This isn't something where you keep secrets in this industry. We're not buying shoes, right? So it's the biggest purchase of people's lives, and it has to be taken so serious. And I just think that that's super important, just to be very transparent with your clients. And honestly, if people don't like it, then we don't have to work together, so like you can go ahead and work with somebody that's going to tell you what you want to hear, but I'm going to make sure that every single thing that's going to happen from day one until we close.
Yeah.
I hope that helps.
absolutely. No, that
I know
does,
it's going to
because
be
it's like,
tough, but
well, it's just different, right? Like it's
Mhm.
just a different type of conversation. And ideally in my brain, it's like, obviously ask for concessions, but then again, it is up to the seller on if they
Mhm.
like it or not. And in my brain, I'm always just like, well, do you want your house sold or not? Like, because product, depending on how you price it and your market, is sitting a lot longer. And if sellers are very adamant to not price drop, then their house just eventually sits on market a lot longer. So to that point, to your point, yeah, it's about having more conversations and just understanding what's happening in our real estate industry. So no, that's really interesting. And then my last question, and it's just up to you of how you want to answer it, but what is the craziest like VA experience you've ever had? Like the craziest thing in a transaction ever happened? Like, what was it?
I don't know, to be honest. I haven't really had something terrible or anything, knock on wood, happen. I mean, I know I guess I wouldn't call it crazy, but I've definitely repainted an entire 4 walls of a basement foundation myself. Like I've done
Really?
that. Oh yeah,
Is that
because
because the seller
sometimes,
wasn't
and I know
willing?
that we're like, technically we're probably not supposed to do these things as buyer's agents, but if nobody else is going to do it, I'm gonna do it. So, and I'm no better than anybody else. I am gonna pick up that scraper and that paintbrush and I'm gonna get it done for my clients, because in the end, that's who we're trying to help. It's not about me at all. It's all about my clients and making sure that they're happy, they're protected, and we're getting everything done for them. It has nothing to do with me. So I don't really, I guess I'm pretty lucky that I haven't had anything super crazy happen. Um, yeah, so I think it's just, that would probably be it. I know it's not that exciting of an answer.
No, it isn't. I think my craziest would probably be coming 100 grand short on an appraisal in the luxury space, which was something like I had never heard of. I was representing the buyers. Sellers were reluctant to like either negotiate or anything. So we did a reappraisal and got the value up. And then suddenly it was 5 grand higher than list price. So then appraisals in my market are like super crazy, but that's probably my wildest story too. So I get
There
that.
is no
So good for you.
consistency with appraisers though. You nailed
Oh,
it. It's like, oh, it depends what kind of mood they're in. I don't know. Like what you just said, like to have that big of a difference between two. It's like, are you guys serious? Like, how is that happening when we should be looking kind of at the same comparables? I don't know.
yeah. But to that, on VA appraisals, then, do you see anything different? Do you see that VA appraisals are different than like traditional like homes, like non-VA homes, I would say?
I don't think so. I feel like I don't really see consistency in any of them, to be honest. I've had an appraiser go back over a year time, or even go like he even said like a different one said, oh, I went out 2 miles, and I said 2 miles, that's a completely different city. Like it doesn't even compare to this area where this house is. Like what? Like, so I feel like they need to be more consistent, but I don't think that's going to happen. So I feel like it's just kind of, they're all over the board. I feel like it's like you just never know what you're going to get, and
Yeah.
a lot of times I'm seeing, and I don't know how this is for you guys, where it comes back literally at the exact accepted offer price, which fine, it's not a bad thing, right? But I'm like, that's interesting. How did it work? Then you kind of look at the numbers and you're like, whatever, hey, we're good. So I guess that's great. I'm not going to argue it, but Do you guys see that there a lot, like where you guys are?
Oh yeah, it's one of those where it's like it's the bare minimum and maybe a couple grand higher, but I mean it's
Mhm.
very rare right now that we're seeing appraisals come in low again. This was only last year and our luxury market's hot. It's hotter than probably anything in the mid cap market, but it was just different. But last question before Rebecca jumps on and wraps us up. How can people get a hold of you, Cory?
You can honestly call me. That's the best way, is just call me. You can call me on my cell anytime. It doesn't really leave my hands very often. You can reach me on work chat, honestly, Facebook. There's all different ways, but the best way is literally just call me on my cell phone. Mhm.
Cool.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, thank
No,
you,
thank
thank
you.
you, ladies. Thank you, Cory. I feel like we learned so much today, and I think it's important that we take that MRP class that you were mentioning. We can get that direct from the NAR website, and we've shared the link there for everyone. But it's so important to be able to help our veterans, and knowing that some of them don't even know the benefits that they're entitled to. I think we need to do a better job of educating them and bringing awareness to that so that they can all benefit from it. There shouldn't be any homelessness with our veterans who have served our country. Thank you to your father who served, and Taz, thank you for the amazing Q&A today with us. First time on the Gap, and so I'm so thankful to both of you for being with us today. These classes are recorded and they will be available on YouTube, and they're available in our Global Alliance University. And real quick before we wrap it up, a couple announcements. We have Build at Sea 24, and if I don't know if anyone in the audience here is registered, let me know in the chat. But that's going to be an exciting time. We're going to go in deeper. We're going to have Coach Pert. We're going to have Gogo and some other amazing speakers that are going to be sharing with us how to really be at the top of our game, how to go in deeper, how to be a person of interest, how to attract new business. And so it's going to be an amazing time. And of course, it's on the cruise. It's going to be so much fun. So if you have not registered, the link is there in the chat, buildatc24.com. There's only a few rooms left. And I know I keep saying that, but I know that some rooms have become available. So like literally they're at the end of the end of the end. Join us. If you're on the fence about going, just go, just go. We're going to be there. All the who's who is going to be in the cruise. Brent Gove is going to be there. Veronica, Gil, Carlos, all of us are going to be there. It's going to be an amazing time. It's a nice hot summer, so the weather's going to be amazing. So, these are the events that I look forward to, because it's the opportunity to be up close and personal with some of these top leading people in the industry. And during the networking times where you're rubbing elbows with these people, being in that proximity where the magic really happens. And so come join us. Have an amazing time. Bring the family. Everyone's invited. And if you know someone that wants to go or is considering to go, bring them too, So that's your last chance to get in here. The cruise will be August the 2nd through the 5th. And so come join us. Just register. That's the link will just get you information. So there's no commitment to get information, but at least you'll know what's involved. It's going to be an amazing time. Our travel coordinator, Anna, will be the one that responds to everyone who registers. And so, I see Didi Roca is going to be joining us there. So I'm excited to see you all. We have 100+ people that are already registered, so it's going to be an amazing time. So again, my name is Rebecca Soto. Thank you all for joining us today. We hope that you have a powerful week. Join us next week again, same day, same time. We'll be with you again for more Gap Mastermind. Have a powerful week, everyone.
Bye. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Cory.
Cory.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you guys. Have a good one.